Hi YouTube, Leather Art by Lisa here. In this video, you're going to learn the step-by-step process of making leather flowers. You're also going to learn some crafty ideas of what you can do with the leather flowers that you make. Make sure you watch to the end to learn my not-so-secret recipe for my stiffening agent. I am going to demonstrate how I make my leather flowers using a leather flower making kit. This will be in your leather flower making kit. You get a nice big piece of leather. Here I am using acrylic templates. These are the ones that I used during the leather flower making class, but in your kit will be cardstock templates. I'm laying them out in such a way to conserve leather, just in case I want to reuse one of the templates to make an extra big flower. Here I am tracing out all the petals of the flowers. You don't have to do this, you can use a knife instead. It's really your choice. I'm going to speed up the video now to get to the next step. I'm removing the templates so that I can start cutting, but I forgot to mark the 2 holes that are in the center of each flower petal template. So before you remove those templates, make sure that you mark those 2 holes. And now it's time to cut. I'm using a very sharp pair of scissors. They're not necessarily leather crafting scissors, but they're just sharp enough to get through the lambskin leather, which is what I am using. Because I did trace around the templates, there are obviously pen marks. I am trying to cut inside those pen marks, but if you can't, don't fret, because you can always go back and trim them up before we get to the molding part. I have all my petals now, and I'm deciding whether I want to add more to the bunch or if I'm just going to go with what I have. For this next step, you will need a mallet, a hole punch, and a pounding board, or one of these. I'm arranging the petal layers so the holes line up with each other, but the petal layers do not. I'll zoom in so you can get a closer look. All you do now is punch out the holes where those 2 marks are. You'll need to use the paper clip that was included in your flower making kit. Open it out. This is where you're going to need the stiffening agent that came with your kit. Make sure you shake that up good. And what you're going to do is just spray all the layers. As you can see, I have a tray underneath my flower so as to not make a big mess, and I highly recommend that you do this. And you want to make sure you spray each and every layer, and you want to get it good and wet. What I'm doing here is I am pinching the leather and twisting it in between my fingers. It's a little tricky to do with the smaller sized flower petals. It's much easier to do with the larger ones. And I also recommend that you have like a paper towel or some cloth to kind of wipe off your fingers in between. It's a little bit messy. And it gets harder to do if your fingers are too wet. If they're also too dry, it's also a little bit harder to do. Even though I was making my way towards the larger petals of the flowers, I still had to go back and readjust the smaller petals. It really is a work of art. You have to kind of make adjustments as you are creating and pinching and rolling and having fun. The larger petals are so much easier to mold, but they also tend to dry out a little bit because of the time it takes to get to them. So you're going to have to dip your fingers into the stiffening agent or respray a little bit just to get them a little bit moist and malleable so you can shape and mold them. I think I said 2 times that I'm ready to let this dry. It's very easy to get caught up in trying to make this perfect, but it's almost impossible to do. You can just keep tweaking it and fluffing it and pinching it, but eventually you just need to say, okay, it's done. Drying time will differ depending upon your climate and how wet the flower ends up being. And I have so many projects on my table that I usually just let the flowers sit there while I work on something else. Sometimes they even sit overnight before I'm able to get to the next part. And once dry, take this. I am using the needle for this with a wide eye. I'm trimming the ends of these pieces to a point. You're not able to see it here in this video right now, but I did add some stiffening agent to these two ties. And what I'm doing is I'm just twirling them, shape them into something that would resemble stamen. And here I am fluffing up some of the petals of the flower. I added a little stiffening agent to my fingers just to wet it a little bit. But this is the final step in the making of a leather flower. If you want to get your hands on a leather flower making kit or the digital downloads, I will put the links to those items in the video notes. Are you looking for an easier way to make leather flowers? Then watch as we use my digital download files to create leather flower making templates for hands-on DIY cutting, or use SVG files to laser cut the flower petals for you. These digital files can be downloaded once and used over and over again. Available now to purchase on my website. Coming up next are those crafty ideas I was telling you about. Things that you can make with your leather flowers, such as earrings and lapel pins. And if you have other ideas that I haven't come up with, please post those in the comments. I want to hear what you have to say. In this video, I made some leather earrings, but after I made them, I realized these would be perfect for men's suits as a little boutonniere for like a wedding or a formal occasion, or just something to add to snazz up one of your plain, boring suits. And you can make them all different colors too. Brooches, bobby pins, earring backs. Found them. In your kit, you get a nice big piece of leather and cardboard templates, but here I'm using the plastic templates that I use during my leather flower making classes. I laid out all the templates to determine how large I wanted my leather flower earrings to be. I'm removing the rest of the templates that I don't need and arranging the ones that I will be using in the most effective way to conserve the leather so that I can make more flowers in the future. Once I have them arranged, I begin tracing them out, and here I'm using a white charcoal pencil. The white charcoal pencil will come right off in one of the next steps. And you really don't have to worry about being precise with your tracing because you're going to cut it out. And once the flower is finished, you won't even notice any imperfections. After I'm done tracing enough petals for the first flower, I use those same templates and repeat the process, tracing the templates for a second flower. Once the templates have been traced, we are now ready to cut. Here I'm using a sharp pair of scissors to do the cutting. And again, you don't have to be precise because in the following steps, Those imperfections just work themselves out. Remember, creating is supposed to be an outlet and it's supposed to be fun, so just enjoy this process. Once all the flowers have been cut out, it's now time to punch holes into the center of each flower. Here I am punching 2 holes into the center of each flower, but in past tutorials I have stacked all the flower petals together in a staggered formation and then punched 2 holes into the center of the top flower. You can do it either way. Once all the holes are punched out, I'm now ready for the next step, which is spraying with the stiffening agent that came with your flower making kit. Make sure you shake that up really well. Then spray each flower generously, front and back. I'm even rubbing it in to make sure that I get all the petals and all the edges and they're all saturated with the stiffening agent. For this step, you're going to need to grab the paper clip that came with your flower making kit, open it up to a U shape and begin to thread each flower petal, beginning with the smallest to the largest. We're only threading one set of flower petals on this paper clip in this step. Make sure you put the second set aside. Once the flower petals have been threaded onto the paper clip, now you just start twisting and pinching and manipulating the leather to make them look like flower petals. This process takes a while to do, but it's also a lot of fun. Because I have fat fingers, here's a little trick that I came up with. Grab a needle nose pliers and use that to pinch and twist and manipulate these little teeny petals that are in the center of this flower. Using the needle nose pliers really makes this so much easier. Once the first flower is done, now we do the same procedure for the second flower, using the same technique, threading the smallest flower petal to the largest flower petal. And again, pinch, twist, and manipulate those little teeny petals to replicate a flower. Remember, grab that needle nose pliers. It really does help. Okay, for this next step, thread the leather lacing through the center holes of the flower that you just made. Once you have the piece of leather threaded through there, remove the paper clip and tie that lacing off in a double knot. Once I have tied that off in a double knot, I grab a pair of scissors and trim them to about 1 inch long, and then I slice each of the leather lacing down the center. What I'm trying to do is make them look like stamen. Once I have them cut to the desired length and thickness, I then use a little more of the stiffening agent, spraying it on my surface or my tray, and I wet those little pieces of leather. I twist them to make them resemble stamen. And don't be afraid to go back and trim these even shorter or thinner. We just repeat these same steps for the second flower. Because I was making earrings, I am making sure that both flowers resemble one another. I had to go back and pinch and twist a little bit to ensure that I had a nice looking set. Once the flowers are completely dry, grab your stud earring hardware and a glue gun. I'm placing a little bit of the hot melt glue on the center of the stud, and then placing one of the earrings that I just made into the glue. I'm using my awl to push the flower into the earring stud. Make sure the contact is good and it's nice and secure. I am repeating the same process for the second flower in the second earring stud backing. It does not take the glue long to dry, and once it's dry, we now have a pair of earrings. Not only do they make beautiful earrings, but they also make beautiful boutonnieres for a suit or tuxedo for a wedding. If you try this project at home, please let me know in the comments how you made out and post some pictures on my socials so I can see your leather art. Coming up next is my secret, not so secret formula for stiffening leather. I use this concoction when I am making my leather flowers and also when I'm making my leather dragon scales. Today in this video, I am going to answer a question that I get a lot. What is in the spray bottles? Question comes up when I'm making my leather flowers. I've been working with leather for 20 years. Probably been making these flowers for nearly that long. I'm going to give you the secret sauce. Okay, so what is in here? It's really pretty simple. It's really not a big secret. I don't even know when I discovered this, but this is it. But I dilute it. I dilute liquid starch with water. And here's my formula. 12 ounces of starch to 4 ounces of water, diluted. I usually do it in this jug and I have it ahead of time so it's all ready to go. But let me tell you what the secret is. You have to adjust it. The whole trick of the starch and water combination, whether to do 12 ounces then 4 ounces, is what I want my finished product to be. So for something like the dragon scales, I want them a little bit stiffer. So I might put more starch and less water for something like that. For something like the roses, the flowers, depending upon where I'm using them, I might want less starch and more water. So it really depends. I kind of play around and I do little test pieces to determine how stiff I want them and how soft I want them. So that's it. Oh, and then I do add one little other thing, but I'm not sure I want to share that right now. It's just, sometimes I add some scent. That's it. That is my secret recipe. So now you know. All right. Thanks for watching. I hope this was helpful. I hope this answered that question. All right, and for more DIY leather art and crafting tips, you know where to find me. So maybe you have purchased one of my leather flower making kits or downloaded one of the templates to cut out your own leather flowers. Or you're probably wondering, what do I do with these flowers? Well, I'm gonna show you right now. If you want to purchase a leather flower making kit, I'll post the link to purchase one in the video description. Anytime that you like, share, and subscribe, it really helps to keep me going and this YouTube channel going. So, if you have watched this entire video, you are amazing and I appreciate you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. For more DIY leather crafting tips and tricks, make sure you subscribe to my channel and click that bell to be notified when new videos are released. Thanks, and I'll see you next time.